Thanks everybody for getting started with the poll. Let me look at. Okay, so a majority of people are saying both. Oh, you guys leaving some sweet comments. Hi everybody. Hi Teresa, Okechi, Cheyenne. Hey Steph, I'm so grateful for your videos. They are really helping me a lot. Thanks for putting time and effort into them. Thanks to your husband for the amazing editing too. Yeah, shout out to Ndosi. Thank you so much for being here and for watching the videos. I appreciate you guys. I hope it's not too dark back there. Let me know if it's too dark. Oh, could they hear me? Okay, but could they hear me? Okay. Alrighty. So today we're talking about the book, The Upside of Stress. I'm curious how many of you have read it. It's totally okay if you haven't. Huh? Okay. I saw some reviews come through on Goodreads about the book, and I will share some of those. Let's see. How's everybody feeling tonight? And what time is it where everybody is? Where I am, it's 7:08 p.m., but I know some people are joining from all over. So sorry if it's really late or really early for you. Okay, haven't yet. Cheyenne reviews. Do you review books, Cheyenne? What do you review on your channel? Finished it today. Okay. This is Amy, right? Because I remember this is Amy, right? Because I saw your review. If so, Mayaya. Model behavior, you read it. Okay. 7:09. Okay, so we're in the same time zone. Okay, so if you did read it, let me know what your rating was. I'll let you know mine. Hi, Coco Cloud. All right, so we've got Dallas. Oh, you review food, but not on YouTube. Okay, well, where can we find your food reviews? Are you on TikTok? I'm a foodie, so I love looking at food reviews. Unity, you weren't able to get the book. That's okay. So yeah, tell me what your ratings are, and I'm gonna read Amy's review. I always read Amy's review. They're so thorough. If that's okay. Okay. I saw this earlier. If you ever want to see what everybody in the book club is saying about a book, if you look at it through the group, there's a way to see, what people in your group are talking about. Okay, so we have reviews from Amy. She just finished hers today, and we also have a review from Monica, but that was done last year. I think Monica may have been the person who recommended this book for the book club. Okay. Colleen, I see, yeah, you have it in currently reading. I actually still have a little bit to go as well, so I'm currently reading it as well. Haven't finished reading it yet, but so far I'd give it a 4. The message is helping me manage work and life stress much better than before. It's 1 a.m. in Germany right now. Is that where you are, Ogechi, in Germany? Thank you for joining us so late. 4 stars on Goodreads, but I think it was more like a 4.5. Yes, I saw that you did 4.5. Okay, so I'm going to read Amy's review of this book, and then I'll tell you guys what my rating is. Like I said, I still have a little bit to go on it, but I can give you the rating for what I've read so far. Okay, so Amy said in her review, 4.5 stars. One of my favorite quotes from this book is, "The mindset doesn't feel like a choice that we make. It feels like an accurate assessment of how the world works. It affirms that our narratives and beliefs can shape our worldview, which I never thought of applying to stress as well. But it really applies to anything and everything. The book is a bit repetitive, but I think that that's intentional. The author consistently reinforces the idea that stress doesn't have to be inherently bad, and she reminds us that this almost every other page. While I'm generally not a fan of self-help books, I found this one interesting. It offered moments of self-reflection through questions and exercises without bombarding me with an overwhelming set of tasks. I also do like that the author is a bit realistic in realizing that this book cannot apply to every single person who may be dealing with complex trauma and other disorders, but it can provide some helpful insights for many others. I liked reading about all of the experiments. So I agree with Amy's review, but I especially agree with the part about it being a bit repetitive. And this is one of my main challenges with reading self-help books, is that most of the time, if I give a book a lower rating, it's because I feel like we're talking about the same point over and over again. Now, there is a difference between sharing the same point through different lenses, maybe using different anecdotes to illustrate a point for people who might say, what about this? And what about this? But for me, this book was very, very repetitive. I felt like when I was first reading through it, like the first 30% was all about the exact same thing, which is that stress is not bad and it can help you grow. And so I see a majority of people, if you didn't put both, actually it's tied. People say stress is bad for your health. And so this is a great time to start hopping into some of the quotes from the book. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Thank you for contributing. Oh, Brandy, so where can you get this book from? I got mine through the Kindle store. You might be able to order it off Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Maybe Ndosi you can add a link to the chat. Also, I can hear in your headphones. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of my highlights. And please feel free to share your highlights as well if you have any that really resonate with you. Oh, okay. Should I scoot up? Well, I kind of need the trackpad. Okay. So the first thing is stress is harmful only when you believe it. So this is the primary point of this entire book, which is that our stress affects us when we have a mindset that stress is bad. And that we have that mindset a lot of times because we've been pushed that narrative through the media by healthcare professionals that stress is bad. If you have any sort of illness, any sort of condition, the first thing you're told to do is reduce your stress, which she's found, which studies have found is basically increasing people's stress because now they're overwhelmed and stressed out about being stressed. And so the entire theory around this book is if we allow ourselves to see the benefits of stress, we don't look at it as an inherently bad thing, we can actually benefit from stress and not be so overwhelmed with trying to get rid of it. Okay. Oh, that was quick. How'd you get that so quickly? Okay. If you want to, if you need a link to the book, just put in !BOTM. Or their Stream Elements has it there as well. Okay. Now one thing that Amy mentioned in her review that I also loved, I had a love-hate relationship with it, is that this book is full of studies. And some of these studies were so fascinating and so interesting. My problem was that a lot of the studies were coming to the exact same conclusion, which is obviously our mind can affect our biology. She's specifically talking about stress, but she talks about other things as well. And I loved reading those. I loved reading the studies throughout the beginning of the book, but then it started getting a bit redundant and it felt like some things that probably could have just been referenced quickly and put into a works cited page, because I didn't need to know the backstory of every single study that she's using to support her research. For me, it took me a little bit out of the overall message. Curious if anyone else felt that way that read it. Brandy says, wow, I always say that about everything. It only works if you believe. Yeah, mindset is so powerful. If it wasn't, I wouldn't even have a job. So much of my work is just helping people process what they're experiencing and what we call reframing. So let's look at this through a different lens. Let's look at this as an opportunity, even if it's the most devastating of circumstances. Thinking about if there's anything new afforded through this situation, what can you learn from the situation? And sometimes people can be resistant to that because sometimes it can feel like toxic positivity, right? And I think that that might be one of the complaints with even the theories in this book is that you're talking about stress as though it's only ever good and that it doesn't get in the way of people's quality of life and that people have complete control over their mindset. And so I know that that is a challenge, and because of that, sometimes I didn't 100% agree with everything that was being said in the book. There were times where I was kind of like, that's a bit reductionist. But like Amy said in her review, if she does say in the beginning that she does not claim that this helps all types of stress or every single person, but that she's found it to be really helpful and her students have found it to be really helpful, even with very severe stress. Okay, so some of the interesting studies that she referenced, I won't go into details about all the studies, but I thought some of this was super interesting. That those who believe that most people can be trusted tend to live longer. This is a super interesting finding. And if you want to see more about these studies, definitely encourage you to read the book. I don't have time to go into the details of every study because there are a lot mentioned. I thought this was really interesting. This was a conversation I was having with a couple that I actually met with yesterday, where you have one partner who experienced a lot of adversity. They experienced having a parent be manipulated and conned in a way that completely affected their lifestyle growing up. So they've grown up with a very skeptical view of humanity, very cynical, and understandably so, that their life experiences have supported that sort of distrust or mistrust for the world. Whereas their partner came up in a very different environment and, they see the good in people. They assume people are not out to get them. And so because of that, they get into a lot of arguments where that one partner who is more cynical or more skeptical of people will often refer to their partner as naive. So they'll be condescending and speak to them in a way where they're like, you don't understand how the world works. This person is probably trying to get over on you. You need to stop being nice to strangers, that sort of thing. And so I do think that it's very interesting to look at the fact that people who who believe that most people can't be trusted tend to live longer. And I think that's obviously a reflection of stress that we have on a social level. When you don't believe that you can trust people, then you're in a position where you're constantly watching your back, might be hyper vigilant, feeling like you need to protect yourself at all times because no one's trustworthy. So I thought that made a lot of sense, but I thought that was a really interesting study. Oh, the other thing is that they were talking about how when we keep telling people, stress is so bad for you, that we're thinking we are encouraging people to reduce stress in their lives, when in actuality, we can exacerbate stress and exacerbate behaviors that exacerbate stress. So one example they gave was a study about how healthcare providers encourage people not to smoke by showing them graphic images of lung cancer. And what they actually found is that those images trigger fear, and that fear leads to them needing to smoke to calm down. So that's what happens a lot of times when we just use this fear-mongering message about stress. Stress is bad. And people deal with that. They feel guilty about being stressed by doing activities such as eating in a way that might make them feel worse about their body, feel stressed about losing weight, or they might, make impulsive decisions that lead them into more stressful situations. So we might be compounding stress with that messaging about getting rid of stress, and stress is bad. So I really thought that this was a very interesting point being made, that, we think that we're helping people by telling them reduce your stress, when in actuality, we might be exacerbating it. So this is what I love. She gives a description or definition of stress. Her conception of stress is that stress is what arises when something you care about is at stake. And this actually leads to a huge change in how she talks about stress and how we should look at stress. She says that we are often stressed about things that have meaning. So we're rarely going to feel a lot of stress about a situation that we're not invested in or care about. So sometimes stress lets us know how much we care about something. You know, you're stressed about your job, maybe because you actually care about what your bosses think about your work. Maybe you care about how you feel about your performance. Maybe you recognize this as a challenge that you would like to be able to overcome and see the other side of. You might be stressed about food because maybe you have goals for your health so that you can be around for your kids. You know, typically we're not stressed about things that aren't meaningful to us. So that also changes the way that we look at stress as a whole, because in that way, stress is illuminating. It shows us what we care about. I love to take a break here and kind of engage with you guys about what are some of the things that you found in your life to be some of the biggest sources of stress for you. And what does that tell you about the meaning it has in your life? I can start first. For me, I tend to get the most stressed with interpersonal situations. You know, I don't really get very stressed about stuff like work projects or even back when I was in school projects. I don't get that stressed about money. I always feel like we'll figure it out. But I do get stressed about interpersonal situations. So it might even be, you know, just having a regular conversation. And then I get home at night and I'm replaying over and over again things that I've said in that conversation. And did this come across the right way? And those things can feel very overwhelming to me. But that's because it's meaningful to me to have solid connection, to feel loved and valued in a setting. And there's actually a great quote in here that I'll get to about we have a belief about if we belong, how it impacts how we interpret situations. So again, just talking about the importance of mindset. Let me check in with what you guys are talking about. Alicia said grad school. Yes, grad school can be extremely stressful. And do you feel like for you, Alicia, that grad school is stressful for you because it's something that's meaningful to you? Or do you feel like it's just kind of arbitrary stress because you have a lot to do and a little bit of time? He calls me Tiana. Hi, thank you for being here. Glad to talk to you. Model behavior, starting a business. Yes, entrepreneurship is one of those things that I found is a value that I don't think we recognize, like how special the value of being an entrepreneur is. It's something that I have personally never gravitated toward. I've kind of ended up there, but it was nothing that I ever dreamed about. I always felt like being an entrepreneur would be just too much for me. It's just not important enough to me. But a lot of the people that I admire, they have this vision and they put in so much work to bring it to fruition. And there's something so special about having nothing and putting in all of this work and seeing it manifest into like a logo and a business name and customers or whatever the business is. I think that's such an amazing process to witness. And I've seen it with friends and family. And I just love watching that process because you really see where a person's passions lie. So I can see absolutely model behavior why starting a business would be super stressful. But I imagine that it also has a lot of meaning for you. Coco says, and I hope I'm saying that right, Coco, not Cocoa. Stress is due to work. Work is very demanding and I work all of the time, nights and weekends. Do you find your work to be meaningful, Coco, or is it more meaningful to you in terms of the funds you're able to get through your work? Is that more where the meaning comes from? Maxine Shaw says, Maxine Shaw, is that your real name? Where are you getting that from? Living Single. I love that. You gave the example of partnership, but growing up, watching a very trusting parent constantly be taken advantage of is why I struggle to trust and causes the most stress in any interaction. That absolutely makes a lot of sense. Alicia, grad school is meaningful because it is my desired path. MFT, yay! Yay! I love seeing future MFTs in here, but I feel like it is so hard to achieve and so easy to fail. Wow. I'm curious of why you think it's hard to achieve and easy to fail. What the metrics of success would look like for you. What would make you feel successful as an MFT? Ogechi says, school, work, and money both feel very directly connected now that I'm in university. Yeah, those two are super intertwined when you're going through school. He calls me, Tana, can you make a video on the things you're going to need to remember from grad school as an LMFT versus what you don't? My head is spinning trying to remember all these theories and vocabulary. Total, that's a really good idea. And I'll be totally honest. I'll answer it kind of quickly here, and I could do a more in-depth video. Graduate school is really about finding your place in terms of the theories that are out there. You know, what model resonates with you? Are you the type of person who's looking to help people get to their solution quicker, like, you know, solution focused therapy? Are you more focused on understanding the hierarchy of a family and trying to help a person resituate that? There are so many different ways to approach therapy. In grad school, they want to make sure that you understand the different ways of doing it. Now, we talk a lot about common factors, and sorry to everybody who's not in school for marriage family therapy, because this part is going to be a little bit boring. I promise I'm going to do it quickly. We talk about common factors because so many of the models have such similar premises. When we really peel it back, get rid of the jargon, and just look at what's the overall point of this work. So by the time you get to working in the real world, I'll say my work and my colleagues' work, we don't really stick to a specific model. I'm not always referencing a lot of the terms. I have to use them a lot because in making these videos and stuff, sometimes it's important. Like, since I know I have a good amount of people who are watching my video who are in school to become therapists, knowing those terms can be helpful for their exam, or just getting the concept, especially if you're looking at it playing out on like a show or something, make it a lot easier, more digestible than a textbook. But with my clients, you want to focus on using the language that they're using. So, you know, you start bombarding them with a lot of jargon, you'll lose them too. So, not to say that everything you learn in graduate school is irrelevant, because it's so important for understanding where you're coming from as a therapist. But by the time you get into the real world, it's so much more important to connect, to build that rapport with your client, understand what they're needing, learn how to make a treatment plan. Those things are a lot more important than like the terms or the years and things like that. I mean, you won't be referencing that on a daily basis. That's just my take, unless you're going to become a professor or something like that. Okay. Mayaya said, I think different things have stressed me out at different stages of life. For example, in uni, and when my husband and I first got married, we get stressed about money, but now years later, I'm now in the mindset that we'll figure it out and is not really a stress source. I think now things that stress me out is finishing grad school, MFT, thanks to your videos, since we're having a baby soon. Oh, congratulations, Amy. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, so I think, that's a great point too. As we develop in life, it's so interesting, the things that stress us out at one point in life, and as we develop and grow and evolve, how those things can become so irrelevant. It's just not even as important as it was at that time. You know, thinking about stress you might have had in high school, or people you were dealing with in high school, where now here you are years later and you're not even thinking about those people. Sometimes I do that as well, as I just think about, is this going to be something that I'm thinking about in 5 years? And if it's not, I try to allow myself to just look at this as something that I can navigate through now. One of the things that she talks about in the book is recognizing the difference between a threat and a challenge. A threat is something that is really beyond your skills or resources, right? So let's say that your mortgage is due and you are not earning enough to pay your mortgage. That's a threat to your livelihood. You might be in a position where you might be homeless. Let's say you have a project at work that is requiring you to spend extra hours to, collaborate with people that you typically don't work with, maybe you don't even care for. Those sorts of things put you in a position of having to grow so that you can meet that expectation. That's a challenge. So asking yourself, is this a threat? something that I need to figure out, like, how am I going to get out of this situation? Or is this a challenge, something I need to focus on? How can I get through this situation? I think sometimes with stress, it's really helpful to think about it that way. So that way, like a lot of you are talking about grad school. I think that's a challenge. That is something that you guys are capable of doing, that you will likely be very successful with, depending on what success means to you. As far as, a threat, if you feel like school is not for you, you don't know how to study, you really don't care about this whole therapy thing, then we might be talking about more of a threat, because you might be investing in something that's really not adding value to your life. I love one of the things that she talks about, and I'm all over the place with my quotes, but she talks about how when we view stress as negative, we want to eliminate anything that's causing stress. Let's see if I can find that. Yes, here we go. On page 87, she says, the biggest problem with trying to avoid stress is how it changes the way we view our lives and ourselves. Anything in life that causes stress starts to look like a problem. If you experience stress at work, you think there's something wrong with your job. If you experience stress in your marriage, you think there's something wrong with your relationship. If you experience stress as a parent, you think there's something wrong with your parenting or your kids. If trying to make a change is stressful, you think there's something wrong with your goal. And that is what I really, really liked about, that was in chapter 3. That's what I really liked about her take on stress, is that sometimes we are so focused on alleviating and avoiding stress that we hold ourselves back. We won't go for it within a relationship that we think has potential, but that maybe we're worried about not being good enough for that partner. We won't go for a job that we could excel in, but we're worried about being able to thrive. We're worried about the stress that comes with it. We won't go for, there's so many things that we will just avoid just so that we won't be stressed, instead of looking at that stress as a sign, like the fact that I'm stressed about this shows me how much I care about it. I had a great introduction to this because I grew up performing. So even like as a little kid at church, we had something called Second Sunday where all the kids would sing on Sunday night. And it's funny because if I talk to the outside world about that, it just sounds like a cute little thing. But, for me, I would be so stressed. Like, what song am I going to sing? I need to practice. Don't let me mess up there. Because I remember one time I was like 4 or 5. I was singing a song. I cracked, ran off the stage, dropped the mic. My mom's chasing me out. At that time, that's what my stresses were. Like, I'm thinking all month about what song am I going to sing? How's it going to sound? Who's going to sound better than me? Just all of these things that are affecting my experience of this moment. But I learned that even if I was nervous or stressed, I could still perform well. So that kind of taught me how to see the benefits of stress. Even some people who like to procrastinate and you wait till the last minute to get projects done, that's somebody taking advantage of stress. You're saying, I know that I can perform well if I wait till the last minute and I get this taken care of with adrenaline. I'm, overwhelmed, and I might be a little overwhelmed, a little stressed out, but I know that's when I create my best work. That's using stress to your advantage. So that's something I think about now. I mean, most recently, I was probably the scariest before I did my TED Talk. I mean, when I listen to my TED Talk, I can hear my nerves. Like, I can hear how nervous I was. So it's so funny to me that like one of the first things people will say is like, man, you seem so comfortable up there. You didn't seem nervous at all. I'm like, that was so not the case. But because I had so much practice growing up with performance and allowing, myself, I could still perform through nerves and stress. That's the kind of skill set that I would use in a moment like that. Because when I first get asked to do things like that, my first response is no. I wanted to say no, and I think I did say no at first, and then I got convinced to do it. And I'm so glad I did. But being afraid of the stress that comes with public opinion and the preparation And the criticism that comes as you're trying to perfect that, I was like, I don't think I have the capacity for that, but I'm so glad that I did do it. So stress can be an amazing tool for us so that we can see what matters to us. Because if it was something like that I didn't care about, I wouldn't be nervous or even tempted to say no. Let me get back to some of these comments. Jenatois, is that right? Jenatois? My MFT class watched a few of your videos. I was like, hey, I know her. Yep, tell them I'm your friend. So glad to have you in here. Coco said, you're saying it right. Work is not meaningful for me. I need the money for bills. Currently looking for another job. And that's a great example of sometimes where if you're stressed and you can't see the meaning of that stress, like this is not an impactful job for you and you're not even getting enough money to actually be able to enjoy your life and find fulfillment outside of work, that is a great example of an opportunity to look outside of your job. So stress can also be informative, not just in what's meaningful to us, but also what's not meaningful. So if my emotions are just all over the place with this job, but the job doesn't mean much to me and the money is not enough to keep me sustained, why am I still here? So I love that you're already looking for other work. Mayaya said, oh, sorry, I already read that. Oh, he calls me Tina. Oh, Tiana. Do you have any recommendations for Christian faith-based therapy psychology books? Not off the top of my head. Christian faith-based. Huh? What were you gonna say? Oh, yeah, and it's not psychology, but I was like thinking, yeah, no, that one was terrible. But those are both relationship books. So I can only think of like a lot of the relationship books that we read. It's not, I don't recognize that it's Christian when we pick it up. But they are, so, but not psychology. I can't think of any psychology. So if anybody else has recommendations, please put that in there for He Calls Me Tiana. Coco says, oh my gosh, why haven't I seen your TED Talk? I will find it, watch it very, very, very soon. Thank you so much. I think I actually have it on my channel. So. Oh yeah. We put it on the community tab and there's a special appearances section for any like features I've ever done. And you can find it there too. Yeah. Or you could Google my name probably in TED Talk if that's easier, but we do have it linked on the channel as well. Okay, let's see. Any other quotes I want to get to? Okay, we've still got about 20 minutes. Oh, yes. Okay, so talking a little bit more about what we were just talking about. There is a graphic in here that's called Rethink Stress. What is the cost of avoiding stress? And she says, although avoiding stress can seem like a rational strategy, this is on page 84. If you want to show this, you can show this because it's a table. But it is going to be a little wonky because like of the size, but just giving you guys that warning. Although avoiding stress can seem like a rational strategy, it almost always backfires. One of the benefits of embracing stress is that you find the strength to pursue goals and endure experiences that are difficult but meaningful. The mindset exercise below will help you recognize the cost of trying to avoid stress in your life. So I'm going to read these. These are questions. And I want, any of you who are comfortable answering it to answer it. I think this is like very, oh, see, I got a little something in my hair. Sorry, guys. Hopefully I got it. I'm gonna probably look down and it's still there. Okay. So you guys can answer these in the chat if you feel comfortable. So number 1, missed opportunities. What events, experiences, activities, roles, or other opportunities have you turned down or cut out of your life because you thought they were or would be too stressful? So I'm trying to think if I have any that come off the top of my mind. Any opportunities I've turned down or cut out because that might be too stressful. Well, just being totally transparent, I actually was presented with another opportunity to work with TED this year. And I thought about it for weeks, but I have a lot going on right now. And I ultimately ended up turning that opportunity down. And it was because I thought it might be a little bit too stressful. I don't regret that decision yet, but it could happen where I end up regretting it. But right now I just felt like I had to manage what I have going on. So that is an opportunity that I definitely missed from, whether it was a good decision or not, it's still an opportunity that I missed due to feeling like it was probably going to be too stressful. Okay, let's see. Hi, Lady B. When are we going to analyze movies again? What movies would you love me to analyze? I haven't done a movie breakdown probably since I did the first Hunger Games movie. Maybe like, I think Hunger Games was after that. I think I haven't done that in a while. Please, happy to do. I love doing movie breakdowns. People love the reality TV breakdowns, but what's so funny is that I typically do Love is Blind, and I'm just getting burnt out on Love is Blind. And I think everybody is, because normally when a new season comes out, I have so many people being like, when are you going to cover this season of Love is Blind? And I mean, I've had a few, but it's really like a handful. I actually had somebody comment and say on another video of Love is Blind, like, if you're able to do a video like this from season 8, I'll be impressed, because there's absolutely no meat to these couples this season. So I haven't even watched it. So I would love to do some show breakdowns. I mean, not show, but some movie breakdowns. And if you have other show recommendations, I would love to check those out as well. Okay, Amy says, some social gatherings when I know I won't know very many people. That's real. Oh my gosh. So many times I'm like, do I really feel like networking? I have always despised networking, and that might have really cost me some opportunities. I've been really lucky with how I am about networking with some of the stuff I've been able to do, because I just like going up, talking to somebody. I'll say the only time I actually felt, and it's funny, I keep talking about TED tonight, because I feel like I hardly talk about it, but that was like the first time I actually was proud of myself with, I guess, in networking, because everybody was so nice. Like I could sit down at any table by myself and have, meet a person and have super in-depth conversation. And I would walk away like, man, I'm learning so much from these people. So that was a really positive experience for me. And hopefully I can channel that into other spaces, because I'm like you, Amy, if I don't know a lot of people, I'm kind of like, normally I try to have my husband's back because I'm the more social of the two of us. But lately I've been like, you're going to have to go by yourself. I just can't do it. Even people I do know, I find myself doing that sometimes. He calls me, Tiana says, I received a good job opportunity recently, but I thought the schedule would be too stressful while working on my grad program. I mean, that's real. I mean, do you look back on that decision and regret it? Or do you feel like that was just a really smart choice for you based on what you can handle? Again, we have to look at threat versus challenge. Was this a challenge that you feel like you had the resources and skills to manage at the same time? Or is this a threat to you being able to sleep and eat, because you didn't have the time or resources to do both? It's not always a bad thing. Okay, so the next one is number 2, avoidant coping. What activities, substances, or other escapes do you turn to when you want to avoid, get rid of, or numb thoughts and feelings related to the stress in your life? Then the follow-up question to that is, are these coping strategies a good use of your time, energy, and life? Do they enhance meaning or help you grow? Are any of these coping strategies self-destructive? So for me, I would say, and I think this is just being real, it's something that, a lot of us can relate to. Oh my gosh, is this thing still here? Yes. Whatever. Oh, you see it? Did you get it? Thank you. Okay, so it's funny because it's like almost over anyway. But for me, the social lubricant of having a glass of wine or something helps me a lot, especially in social situations where I'm feeling really anxious or stressed. And do I think that it's a good use of my time, energy, and life. Do they enhance meaning or help you grow? I'll say it's not something I'm concerned about because I can go months without drinking and be fine. But I do sometimes wonder, what does it say that, in these situations I am reliant? Because I think that's actually, now that I think about it, there is a space that I go to with people that I'm familiar with, sometimes people I don't know, where alcohol is not an option. And I do avoid that space because I feel so uncomfortable. And maybe if I, was able to have a glass of wine or something and kind of relax, I'd be in a place where I would go more often. Never thought about that. So, maybe in a way, relying on that liquid courage puts me in a position of, just avoiding spending time with other people that I may know because I don't have that way of dealing with the anxiety of talking. And you guys, I'm talking about probably not even a whole glass of wine, but that first sip, I'm already a lot more comfortable than I am just talking without it in stressful situations. Oh, I am stuck on the relationships and brown sugar. Yes. I'm not judging you, Lady B, because I've actually done a Love Jones breakdown. So I'm all about the 90s rom-coms, and Brown Sugar is actually one of my top favorite movies ever. Love Brown Sugar so much. So that's a great recommendation. Ogechi says, I think Shrek would be interesting. You know what's so funny is all of my family around my age and friends, they love Shrek. Shrek is a huge part of everyone's personality. And I was just one of those people where I watched Shrek, it was fine, but I wasn't obsessed with it. So I would probably have to watch it again to see if there's anything that I could break down. Monica says, the social anxiety beer for me. Oh, Monica, you read this. We gotta make sure because Monica's a common name, but you read this book last year. Is that you, Monica, or was that a different Monica? If so, I was going to read your review as well. Model behavior. I started scrolling on my phone to cope. That's a good one. Just literally having nothing to even do on your phone and just getting on there just to deal with the situation, just to dissociate from the situation. Yes, that's a great one. Ogechi says, I watch Netflix shows or YouTube to ignore my stress. Yep, I'm currently in a weeks-long binge of Modern Family, and that has been my escape for the last few weeks. And now I'm on the final season. And I was just telling Ndosi today, I'm like, what am I going to do when I'm done with this show? Love that show. Coco says, yoga has been an amazing way to help me cope. It probably has a lot to do with the body-mind connection and taking a lot of deep breaths. Very helpful. I recommend. That's a super healthy way of dealing with stress. And I appreciate that healthy suggestion. I should definitely incorporate, especially more deep breathing. Sometimes I get so wound up and tight. And then I'm like, I remember to breathe. I'm like, why don't I remember to do this more often? It's something I'm always telling my clients, if they start even getting worked up in a session, take a pause, take a deep breath together. But when it's you, or I can say when it's me, I have such a hard time remembering to do that. Amy says, for me, I have a handful of behaviors I do when I'm stressed. Some are harmful, like stress eating and doom scrolling, and some are healthy, like working out or doing something creative. I have got to get back to working out. That is a great one. I remember when I used to work corporate, that was a great example of feeling stressed and having no meaning. The job I was doing at the time, I was very uninvested in. And I would get so overwhelmed and I would feel so much anxiety in my back specifically. So I loved going to the gym and it's like lifting heavy weights or, doing a lot of back exercises gave me so much relief. Okay, Miss Insane and Membrane, Loving Basketball. That one's a doozy. I personally thought Love Jones was tiptoeing on the toxic line, but Loving Basketball, girl. When he started dunking on her at the end, but it's Loving Basketball. Somebody's playing basketball. Okay, are you gonna watch it? Edosi says that's a spoiler. Sorry for anybody who was gonna watch that and didn't know he was gonna dunk on her. You don't know the context. Okay, so that is you, Monica. I'm gonna read your review too. Ogechi says a movie analysis on Titanic would be great. Yeah, Titanic would be good. Winner Loses, a new animated series on Disney Plus. The Inside Out producers worked on it. Ooh, I didn't even know about that. Thank you for that recommendation. Okay, let me get to this last one, and then I'm going to also read Monica's review. Okay, 3, limiting your future. Is there anything you would like to do, experience, accept, or change if only you were not afraid of the stress it might bring into your life? Ooh, that's a deep one. Let me read that again. Is there anything you would like to do, experience, accept, or change if only you were not afraid of the stress it might bring into your life? Ooh. Let's see. What would I change? Well, you know, Ndosi and I are always talking about kind of expanding my channel, like with shorts and things like that. But I tend to shy away from stuff like that because I'm like, if I get started with it, people are going to have expectations that I'm going to be regular with it and consistent. And I'm like, I'm struggling already to just stay consistent with videos. And because, you know, I still work full time. So I'm not a full time YouTuber. And my work as a therapist for me is more important because I do care about being a therapist. And I don't have any intention of like quitting therapy to become a full time influencer or anything like that. No time soon, at least. I just feel like I haven't even paid my dues and I still love what I do. But I think, you know, as far as like building more on this channel with like shorts and maybe other content and stuff we've just thrown around, I do avoid that. And I wish I could just, you know, accept, hey, just like you sometimes get videos out and sometimes you don't, you can do the same thing with shorts. You can do the same thing. He wants me to think about merchandise, and he was talking about like a Patreon or different things like that, membership only, like to offer people more options to like connect with me and like not feel the pressure of having to edit videos and just kind of have more like talks and a more intimate thing. And I'm always kind of like, oh, I don't want to start anything new because it's like another thing on my plate. But at the same time, you know, I'm blessed to have this amazing community that I actually really enjoy engaging with. So, you know, that is something that I would like to change or incorporate. And I do let my fear of stress get in the way, if I'm honest about that. Let's see. Ogechi says, I love Modern Family too, but I can never watch the last couple's episodes without getting depressed. Oh my gosh, don't tell me, because I don't know if you're just saying like just because you're getting towards the end or if they're actually depressing. Don't tell me, because I've never watched it before. This is my first time watching it through. So I'm so nervous. Hi, Allison. Thanks for being here. Okay, so yeah, so that, I think this is kind of a good summation of it. I'm going to read Monica's review of the book as well. Monica gives it 4 stars. She finished it last November. And I kind of think you are probably the person who recommended this to me. Or you know what? I probably saw your She did recommend it? Okay. Yeah, because I also think your review came across, and that's what made me think this would be great for the book club. So thank you. I love getting your recommendations for the book club, you guys. And while I'm doing this, we'll start getting a poll together about the type of book we want to do next. So we want to do self-help / psychology like this one. Do we want to do a memoir, or do we want to do fiction / novel? Okay. So McGonagall's insights aren't new, but I appreciate the reframing. Oh, did you want to pull this up on the screen if you want to? So go to, yeah. Are you on my account? Oh, great. Yeah. So just go to the Upside of Stress. And if you just click on the book, and then you'll see like friends and following. And Monica's the second one for me. Do you see it? Yes, just scroll down. Yep, and you see Monica's review second. Okay, perfect. Okay, now you guys can read it with me. Okay, McGonagall's insights aren't new, but I appreciate the reframing. Main takeaways. She redefines stress as the feeling you have when something you care about is at stake. It's a great way to neutralize the aversion to stress. You're activated because you care. That can be a good thing, and it often is. Second point, moments, periods of stress are inevitable, and so it's useful to learn how to handle stress instead of avoiding it completely. Next point, like any other feeling, stress isn't inherently harmful, and your stress response doesn't have to be the binary fight/flight. You can have a challenge response or the tend/befriend response to stress. Next point, it's more useful to think of your stress response as enhancing rather than defeating, crippling. Interesting. One of the most cited studies that stress causes physical health problems was a study conducted by basically torturing rats, and most people don't undergo extreme torture on a daily basis. Yes, reading about that study, I was like, woo, I was like that. I don't know. I'm not a huge animal person, but I was actually feeling so bad for those rats. What I didn't appreciate was the lack of the balancing counterpoint that moments, periods of rest are also necessary and valid. Totally agree with that. While it's an empowering thought that we have more control over our own stress responses than we might have previously thought, I don't appreciate that the author spent little to no attention on the fact that there are systems of oppression that produce unnecessary stress and hardship that should be changed for the better. All of the onus and responsibility shouldn't be on the individual. It's kind of like saying that if it's hot, you should take off your jacket. But like, what if it's hot because your house is on fire? Taking off your jacket will help, but it may not be enough. Some things are two-hander. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I said that there were points in this book that I didn't agree with. I think McGonagall was going so hard in trying to reiterate her theory around stress, which, is obviously supported by a lot of studies, that I don't think she left a lot of room for different interpretations or experiences of stress. I don't always think stress is mindset, and I don't always think we can almost, manipulate ourselves into not experiencing the negative impacts of stress. As someone who is newly learning that all feelings are useful indicators, even the uncomfortable ones like anger, fear, grief, and stress, this was a useful book. But also as someone who is trying to unlearn that worthiness is tied to work and overwork, this wasn't the best book. I would still recommend the book, but with something like The Body Keeps the Score or My Grandmother's Hands as a companion read. I've never heard of My Grandmother's Hands. I'll look into that one next. Oh, side note, it's a great intro book for the A-type who is turned off by anything remotely approaching mindfulness, spirituality. She snuck in the Buddhist loving kindness meditation in there without actually referencing Buddhism or meditation. I'm going to decide to applaud that bit of inception. Yeah, so, two very, both Monica and Amy had similar ratings of the book and called out similar things. The book I think was great. For me, my main issue was the repetitiveness. And because of that, my final rating for this book is a 3. I think she could have told this in a much shorter way. And it's ironic that trying to get through this book for me felt stressful and not in a meaningful way, in a frustrating way. I don't know. I don't think that stress necessarily meant that it was meaningful, but I do care about coming to our lives prepared to discuss whatever the read is. So that's why, I can feel a sense of stress, but I think that it wasn't necessarily a challenge and that I'm learning and growing so much from this book. I just think that, she was getting really excited about all the studies that prove her point. And I think she included a few too many, because it was like, okay, why am I in chapter 3 still reading about the exact same point I was in chapter 1? Let's keep it moving. So that was my overall take on that. And you guys go ahead and start voting on what type of book you'd like to read next. So we typically do psychology, self-help. We do memoirs as well. My favorite memoir, I've told you guys all the time, but one of my favorites is Crying in H Mart. That's a really great exploration of grief. Love that book so much. And novel wise, any of these books are going to be either about dealing with mental health struggles or managing relational struggles. I always try to find books that have those themes in them. So, we'll still have something to dissect together. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Vanessa, oh, let's see if I can say this right. Oh, Mississippi Brown Girl. Hello, just discovered you regarding your videos on blended families. Oh, wow. That's one of those like very niche videos on my channel. So it's so cool that you found me through that one. Vanessa says, have you done Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? Would love that. Ooh, that's a great suggestion. I haven't watched that movie in probably maybe 15 years. That's the one with Jim Carrey, right? I loved that movie, and I think he did a fantastic job in that movie. Ogechi says, oh no, don't worry. It's because I just love the show so much, not because something bad happens. Okay, good to know. It's because I'm on season 11 and I'm like, I don't feel like, most shows, like I've also binge watched Grey's Anatomy in a year. And, there are certain seasons I'm like, this is such a bad season. This is like, I can't wait for the season to be over. Modern Family has not had any season like that. It still feels the same as season 1. It's just everybody's older. So I love that. Model Behavior says, I like learning different stress responses. I loved learning how during certain stressful moments, the body works to heal and give strength like oxytocin hormone on page 53. Ooh, thanks for the page reference. Let's go to page 53. I love that when you guys come with references. Okay, so we're in chapter 2. I think I highlighted that as well. That's oxytocin. You're trying to see where I am? Oh yeah, here we go. Perfect. Okay. Yes, page is the actual page. Okay, oxytocin has one more surprise benefit. This is so-called love hormone. It's actually good for cardiovascular health. And she says, when your stress response includes oxytocin, stress can literally strengthen your heart. This is quite different from the message we usually hear that stress will give you a heart attack. There is a such thing as a stress-induced heart attack, typically triggered by a massive adrenaline surge, but not every stress response damages your heart. In fact, one of the most provocative studies I've seen found that stressing out rats before trying to chemically induce a heart attack actually protected them from heart damage. So that's a great point. I'm glad you talked about that because that goes along with what her whole point is, that stress can help you grow biologically. She talks about DHEA versus cortisol. Your cortisol is going to go up in a stressful situation. DHEA is going to help you like grow from a stressful situation. I think she talks literally about your brain. I don't know if it's your brain growing or brain receptors growing. But I thought that was a really cool point, and that's something that's being proven biologically. I think she was doing a drool test at that point to prove that when you're viewing stress in a positive way, even in stressful situations, you can grow from that. Literally, your brain receptors can grow from being able to see stress as a positive thing. That's why she's talking about the importance of mindset. But I do agree with Monica that, it does put all the onus on the individual. And sometimes we're in stressful environments that are unnecessarily stressful or that we have very little autonomy over, where it is difficult to grow from those situations or to see the stress as positive. Okay. When do I go live again? I'm too tired tonight. Great question. So our next book club live will be in April. For those of you who don't know, it is bi-monthly, and exactly like Ndosi said, it's usually the last Tuesday of the month. So let's see. That would be April 29th. So we'll have quite a bit of time, right? Is that right? Wait. Oh yeah. April 29th. So that will be our next book club meeting, and I hope you get some rest. Okay, so we've got some people co-signing on Eternal Sunshine. Okay, and yes, if you need to watch the live later, Abdu Rahman, you can go to Goodreads or here on YouTube to get to that link. All right, so it looks like you guys want to read a novel. I'm going to end this poll. Yes, let's take a break. Let's read a novel. But you know what's so funny? We said, let's take a break. Let's read a novel. And then we read A Little Life. which was like the most traumatic reading of my life. After that, I needed a break with self-help. So if you have suggestions for novels you'd like us to read, you could put that in the chat now, or if you need some time to think about it, if you want to go through your favorite reads, feel free to go on our Goodreads group. Just look up What's on Your Page or Steph on Your Book Club on Goodreads. And there is a section called Book Suggestions, Recommendations. I always check there. So if you have some recommendations, I'll always look, and I'll announce soon what our book is going to be for April. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to throw in any novel suggestions you might want. Otherwise, I have a list, and I will either do a poll, or sometimes I just pick because I think it goes with whatever we've been talking about most recently. Thanks to Amy and Monica for letting me read your reviews. I always appreciate that. And also thanks to Monica for the book suggestion. And I'm going to go ahead and close it out. You guys have been amazing. Thanks for engaging with me. Thanks for sharing your stories. I know, it can be scary, like talking about your personal stuff in this online space, but I appreciate everybody for being respectful and keeping it safe for everyone in here. I love this community so much. I will see you guys next time on April 29th. Take care.